Thank you all for coming out tonight. I can see everyone here, and I appreciate that we've done a good job on filling up the seats here in the firehouse. I have no idea how many of you are online right now, but I hope you will find this useful. It's a shame you can't be here because I would like to get your questions and comments as well. But we will certainly, you can send me emails or any of the rest of us to pursue things that come to you that you would wish you had been able to bring up tonight. So let me introduce my colleague, Don Abatiello, who is president of the Easton Town Council. And in the back, because she has to leave early, our mayor, Megan Cook. There she is, over on the left. I clapped, but you made me pick up the microphone. Let's go to our first slide, the first real slide. I'm going to go through these slides quickly. Happy to come back to any of them if you want to go into them more deeply, but I don't want to spend more than 10 or 15 minutes talking. Then what I'd like to do is take questions and answers for maybe 45, maybe for a half hour, and then I'll open up the floor to speeches. But I'd like to have short questions so we can move around everyone, and then if there's a more lengthy comment you want to make that doesn't really end with a question mark, please save that until the end. We've had a number of things going on that you could see in the town lately. You probably didn't see this, but we're very excited that the Italian firm Vitagrow broke ground for a new manufacturing facility in Mistletoe Hall. As you can see, they manufacture animal nutrition products, and that's a nice linkage to our rural and agricultural activities. Traffic light upgrades are coming or in for all of 14 of the town's traffic signals. They will be much more efficient. They will do a much better job of detecting traffic, timing the different intersections, getting us through faster. We'll have push buttons for pedestrians at all the crosswalks that have signals. But that's only the town's traffic lights. Unfortunately, Route 50, the bypass, it's probably the ones that really matter, are controlled by the state. And so they run the traffic lights. They're very cooperative with our town staff when we run into difficulties, but we can't make everybody stop on Route 50 on Friday afternoon in the summer so that we can get across a little better. So, but the upgrades are within the town. We've been doing stormwater system upgrades. Probably don't need to tell you that because you've seen, if you see a major excavation project along the streets, that's the storm drains, and they go back to 100 years old or more, and we are replacing them in what I think is the most efficient way from the things that we have been shown by the engineering staff. We will have a new Parks and Recreation website. This is a little specialized, but it's a real jump into the 20th century for our parks because it will no longer be necessary to fill out paper applications for activities, camps, sporting events. And that is online through the town's website, I believe. And then finally, we are almost finished with building a state-of-the-art training campus for emergency service personnel that's also in Mistletoe Park. And it will be serving the Sound of Easton, our fire departments, emergency service personnel. It will have a burn building that can also be used for training exercises in close quarters combat for the police, and we expect it to be used by emergency personnel throughout Talbot County. Now let's move to council actions. There they are. A couple that I've picked out that we have done since the, let's say since we passed the budget in last May. Recently, our food trucks disappeared for a little while. It was discovered that we have an ordinance that prohibited food trucks, and so the council worked quickly on that to establish a pilot program to see whether, with a set of regulations we put together quickly, we could get them back onto private property and avoid complaints about them. So that pilot project is going on now. We enacted a campaign finance ordinance. Thank you, Mayor Cook, for joining in this. We enacted that at our session on Tuesday. The Planning Commission, now we're getting to things that I know you are interested in. The Planning Commission will be holding its first public hearing on the draft of the comprehensive plan on December 9th. And the council, there are various statutory wait a couple months periods that are written in here. So the council, I expect, will be seeing it sometime next year. Now, at some point, we'll talk about that more in a minute. We're also waiting for the Affordable Housing Task Force report, which was to be fed into our comprehensive plan, but the timing is a little off. And then at some point next year, we expect we will be debating an inclusionary zoning ordinance, which is addressed both in the comprehensive plan and in the Affordable Housing Task Force report. So let's go to the next slide. First, talk about the Affordable Housing Task Force, since that was actually the one that, we saw a draft report on that first. The left side provides some background information. On the right side, there are 5 recommendations, and I'm not letting anything out that you couldn't know already, because one of our chairmen did a very nice interview on the Talbot Spy in which he discussed all this. So if you want more, you can go there too. Everyone on the task force liked the idea of a pilot project where we could find property that was owned by the town, make that available to a developer who was willing to come into us and put together a design for affordable housing that would be compatible with the neighborhood, and that also, with free land from the town, he could build in a profitable way, so as to see if that's actually possible to do. The task force recommended an inclusionary zoning ordinance. I'll be happy to discuss that in questions. I'm going to try to keep my answers short on that because we could have a whole meeting on it. The task force recommended, with some dissent, an education campaign to try to make residents of Easton more aware of what affordable housing is and why it is a good idea. The next one, we're now coming to smaller and, I think, uncontroversially good ideas. One is to change the zoning so that residential structures could be built in commercial districts. Mostly that means so that there could be a business on the ground floor and apartments or other residential arrangements on upper floors. And then a broader rezoning reform has more things than I wanted to recite, but it really means looking at the zoning code to find ways that we could ease the process of building affordable housing, make it cheaper to build affordable housing, allow more flexibility in various rules, and particularly dimensions, setbacks, clearances, and there's a long list of those that we thought might be useful. And that's something that has been recognized nationwide by conservative and liberal think tanks, that zoning codes are probably the thing that make it most expensive to build something that you would rather have cost less. Okay, let's move to the comprehensive plan. There's a schedule that I put up here, and I'm sorry, these are long emails, but I'll be happy to either send me an email to my town email address, and I'll send you a copy of the whole report, or write this down tonight if you feel like spending that much time writing something you probably won't be able to read anyway. The Planning Commission is going to hold a public hearing on December 9th. The draft report is available on the town's website, and you are invited to send comments. In fact, I think that given the relatively short amount of time that is going to be available for comments in the public hearing, that is, it'll be the 3-minute and 5-minute rule. I know that I am sure that some of you have much lengthier comments that you would like to see taken into account and reviewed properly. So unless we figure out a way to kind of stretch out the hearings, I strongly recommend that you send your comments to these 2 addresses. One is the Planning Commission, but I'd also like you to send them to the Town Council as well, so that we can see exactly what you have to say, because we're going to have to take this up too. And we might as well get started on understanding your reactions. So some of the key points that came out of the Town Council at a workshop with the Planning Commission to go over the draft, where among the choices that they had considered, the council had pretty much a consensus that we think the planned growth rate should be 1.14%. Now, there's going to be some discussion of the wording there, of whether that is just a baseline, whether it is a recommended growth rate, whether we think it's a growth rate that could be accommodated within our current budgetary planning and construction of infrastructure construction, or whether it would be called something mandatory. So we brought up and asked our town attorney if she could work on some legal mechanism that we could use to actually enforce that 1.14% growth, at least over some period of time for averaging in the normal ups and downs. I think the town council at least made a clear declaration that we want the comprehensive plan to state that there will be no annexation for residential development, aside from possibly cleaning up certain boundaries. There will be no annexation for residential development during the period that the comprehensive plan is in effect. And finally, we recognize that the biggest issue about growth that we have heard about from you is traffic and how that is connected to growth. So the comprehensive plan will be recommending various kinds of studies of the traffic impacts of new development, and I think everyone on the Planning Commission and the town recognizes that we need better tools for understanding and holding developers responsible for the traffic impacts of what they do. So let's go to traffic. I'm sure we'll talk about this, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on what I have to say. Montgomery has iron law. The faster we grow, the worse traffic we'll get. In fact, I would say that growth, that for every 15% we add to traffic, in any congested intersection, that's going to make it 25% worse. That's just how traffic works. So traffic problems, I just listed the most obvious ones. We can be sure that Gannon Range and Four Seasons, when they're completed, will make traffic worse. I have not seen in my time on the council any idea about a structural measure that can make this congestion go away. We're talking about lots of things. For new construction, increasing the density of the core of the town, keeping development in that core and keeping it away from, and making sure it's not spreading out beyond Route 50 and beyond the bypass. But inevitably, having more people equals more traffic. It's just a question of whether we can find ways of mitigating that or of managing growth in a way that keeps the traffic congestion manageable. We do have a traffic study underway. It's I would call it a 3-year study. We have just gotten it, and its idea is for how to design the town for better flow and better safety for bicycles, pedestrians, motor vehicles, other means of transportation. So the first part of the study was kind of characterizing what kinds of streets are suitable for different kinds of uses. The next step is for us to apply that to the actual map of the town, to think about which streets might could be changed in order to create a town that's more friendly for the different kinds of transportation. Am I doing okay on that, Madam Mayor? Okay. I think the final step has to be using an actual mathematical model to analyze how these design changes would change traffic flow. Because I've seen too many examples in Washington, D.C. of efforts to create compatible, make roads compatible for bicycles and people and automobiles without really anticipating what it was going to do to the level of congestion on those roads and others. So let's go to the fun part, for me at least, which is what's coming up. We have a list here of the backlog, we could call it the pipeline. This is a list that was prepared, we get it periodically from our planning staff. This one is kind of one step back from the most recent one that I received. And it doesn't include, includes a little. 123 South Washington Street is actually completed. Elliott Road is pretty much complete up to 100, it says 106. Which is the other one? Dover Brook, the low-income housing is now accepting residents. Aside from that, if you look over on the right-hand side, you will see that pretty much nothing other than Dover Brook, Elliott Road, and Naima Phase 1. That's down in the, it's off Port Street, am I right? I'm trying, yes.
Between Port Street and Glenwood.
Between Port and Glenwood. So here's your list. Lots of it there. The map, which I think is going to be, this kind of thing will be available in the future and be updated on our town website as part of our new interface. A map something like this.
Yes.
And you'll be able to click on the different projects and find out more information about them. Now, I asked our chief of planning, and don't change the slide yet. I asked our head of planning, Miguel, to take all of these and do his best thinking with his staff about how it's going to be built out, how many will be built in each future year. And I know that's a question that you have asked frequently about Four Seasons, and perturbs people about Gannon Range as well. So he did that, and he actually consulted with all of the developers of the major projects, and this is what we got. And I'm not going to give you the detailed, you wouldn't be able to see the detailed data, but that red line is the 1.14% growth rate that we think the comprehensive plan will be recommending for the town. The green line shows the growth rate, the growth in each year in the population from building out the backlog at the rates that our planning staff were able to kind of make estimates for. So you can see the through 2029, we would be growing at an average annual growth rate of 2% rather than the 1.14%. Cumulatively, that makes a difference. And then at that point, most projects would be completed. A couple of them would be building out on more slower timelines, and eventually building out by 2034 the total amount that had been built under the building out of the backlog by 2034 would be back down to the 1.14% growth rate. It would be back to the 20,500 or so population that the town, actually, we back up. When we look at all these growth rates, what the comprehensive plan would be saying is that at a 1.14% growth rate, we think the town should be growing from about 18,500 now to about 20,500 in 2035. And what this graph shows is that we don't need any more buildings to go into the pipeline than the ones that are there already in order to get to that 20,500 population. So if that's our goal, there's no room for anything else to enter into that pipeline unless something gets canceled or taken out. So, how you can get some more information on this. Let's go to, the next slide is about Engage Easton. This is a new application that you can go to from the town's webpage. And it's going to provide you with interactive maps, surveys, project timelines, descriptions for both three things: projects that are being carried out by the town, so you can write how long it's going to take to finish that stormwater drain along East Avenue, projects, commercial buildings, which I think none of us have really had access to up-to-date information about where new commercial buildings are being built, and this will provide it. And eventually, it will include all of the residential buildings and much more detail on what I was talking about the projects and when they'll build out. I do have one piece of information that I thought would be interesting to everyone before I go to questions. So the last thing I will say, according to the most recent response from Four Seasons, they expect to build out at a rate of 60 houses per year from next year through 2029. For Gannon Range, the estimate is that they will build out at 33 per year from 2026 through 2031. So those numbers don't quite mean a lot to me just yet, but that's the time frame that you will be seeing construction ongoing and the rate at which it will come in. Okay, that's it for me. I'd like to open it up for questions. We have a mic here that I'd like to just walk up to. You can remind me of your name if you like to, but you don't have to if you don't want to. And that way, everyone who is online will be able to hear you, and we can have we could go from one to the next quickly rather than trying to pass across the room. So please, come up with your questions. Yes. I was going to start calling on you if nobody came up.
I'm Ron Fry over at the Easton Club, and I was wondering, I noticed there's a picture there of our waterfront park. What is the timeline for developing that? And also, the town bought the 55 acres at the bypass in Oxford Road, and I understand there was going to be walking paths there. So what are the timelines for our park development?
I'm going to turn that over to Mayor Cook, because that's it. I've been wondering about that myself.
So we've been working on Easton Point Park for a number of years. The plan includes open space. We have Phillips Wharf there, a new road from Flood Avenue in, and potentially a new boat ramp. It's significant funds. We're looking at we're looking at $3.5 to $4 million. So we have applications in for some congressional spending funds for that. The property actually on Oxford Road is not 56, it's closer to 200 acres. That's another significant project. So we have a Ducks Unlimited grant that is going to put some wetlands in. So in general terms, the front 170 is old growth forest and tall pines. We don't want to touch that at all, except for have some paths along there through for walking and running. The back 30 actually is farm field. That's where the Ducks Unlimited will be. There's plans for a small parking lot. We need an easement across the county's property, Poplar Hill, and maybe a small restroom similar to what's at the dog park, and some parking. And that will be a paved path around that back 30 acres.
Great. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Can I just put this little guy down?
Yeah, you can set it back up there as long as if you're mobile, take it with you.
Right. Got it. Next question. Ted, why don't you come? Ted Lidvina, why don't you come up?
Thank you. Thank you and to the council president and the mayor for the
time involved in doing this, especially those who have regular jobs. I know this is tough. I've been following the comprehensive plan for a long time. The people here know how important that is. Many of our friends and neighbors don't know how important that is, and they only realize it when something starts going up in the backyard, and then it's usually too late. So this is a great effort to get the word out. I just want to reinforce a little bit about your view of the comprehensive plan. It's got a lot of great stuff in it. It's got stuff in there where we're recognizing some of our wildlife assets and taking up things like building bird strikes, which are important to me. I mean, in this country, we have a billion with a B birds die from hitting buildings, windows. You know, 1 million, if you killed a bird every second, 1 million birds would take you 11 days, and 1 billion birds will take you 32 years. So that's the scope of the problem. And you know, that's a big problem. Some steps taken just to start on that, and that's a great move. But the idea of growth and limiting growth is important. I think you correctly summarized what I've seen of the Planning Commission and the Town Council and the sentiment. But I've looked at the draft, and you know, it's like 200 pages. Just got I haven't read it all through yet. But when I got down to kind of the enforceable part, of course, there is this exception. There's no residential annexation for residential except for something extraordinary. Well, you know, and they talked about, well, it was extraordinary when we had to annex land for the new hospital. So everyone knows what that means. But when you use a word like that, it's not obvious to everyone, especially after a couple of years, a couple of elections, and things change, and you know, if you wrote this in, you know what you meant. The next guy may not. It's like, you know, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Extraordinary is in the eye of the beholder, too. If you put an exception in there, you will not get any other requests for annexation that are not described by well-paid counsel as, this is extraordinary. This is like Lake Wobegon. All the women are strong, all the men are handsome, and all the children are above average. And every big proposal for annexation you'll get will be extraordinary. So I really think no means no. You either start there and finish there. If you do, if for some reason you think, well, we've got to leave a track open, then you need to define what extraordinary means in terms of the interest of the town, so that there has to be the developer has to prove, you know, ties go to the town and the town people. The developer has to prove by analysis, studies, not just word of mouth, that the impact on the town, the benefits from this are overwhelming compared to the impact to the town. Because other than that, you'll have every possible request for annexation as extraordinary, and you'll have to work your way through it. You know, that's time-consuming and expensive for the town. And I think it should be avoided. Thanks.
I will look forward to hearing from you several more times as this process goes
That
on.
may happen.
So let's, and you know, whatever you would like to talk about or ask about, let's continue this conversation. Yes, please.
My name is Pam Reynolds. Hi, David.
Hi, Pam.
I live in Easton Club. I live in the community of Easton Club. And I think you know well that our concerns about what can happen with the former golf course. And that's been before the Planning Commission, I guess, since 2021 or early 2022. But I see some hard and fast numbers that you've presented tonight. 1.14% growth is a goal. I see the build out of all the various projects that are in the works. out to 2035. And then I see the housing numbers. If in your planning, starting in December 9th when you're hearing with the Planning Commission, if we're going to increase housing with inclusionary zoning, with middle housing reform, with other special exceptions, or become by right instead of a special exceptions, we're conceivably increasing the housing in each of these projects. Is that going to be permitted? It seems like one is fighting the other.
I agree with you that if we need to look at the relationship between any of these zoning reforms or inclusionary zoning, whether they imply that they will be more my right development, and whether they, whether they could be added to, well, whether we would intentionally, for example, try to approve a new planned unit development that included an exceptional amount of affordable housing, or whether certainly there are enough plots here that we need to worry about where by right development could occur that would be in addition to this. The only real tool, I think we have reasons for slowing down the rate of growth simply from the adequacy of infrastructure. And if we plan out our expansion of buying more garbage trucks, having more capacity for repairing the roads, providing other public services, police in particular, that's one way of justifying saying that, no, we have a plan and for having adequate infrastructure, and going above this growth rate would not do that. Now, that's not exactly an adequate public facilities ordinance, but it's one possible way of getting at something. But mainly, I think you're right. That's something we have to keep careful look at. We just need to do the numbers. If we pass this particular exception, what's that going to add to this backlog? And is that something we want to tolerate? I think you're absolutely right, that we can't achieve more affordable housing or denser housing within these parameters without breaking through the growth rate we said we wanted to have. Thank you. Al has been walking a long way.
Al Silverstein, I want to thank the mayor, Mr. Abatello, and you, Mr. Montgomery, for being here tonight. Two issues that I'd like to discuss with you. One of which, I'm a new resident of Easton Club East, and the road that they put down, the new developer, for the town, is got to be the worst piece of asphalt that I've seen in our town forever. And if this town has accepted it, they're going to be stuck with it. And I would hope that each of you would ride that road to see what the problem is. I don't know if the compaction is wrong or whatever, but it's like going on a roller coaster as you go in. And I know David Bramble's company has done some county stuff around there, and it's smooth as glass. I don't see why we should accept that road. Number two, my wife and I driving around town noticed one thing in particular. People do not use their turn signals. And I know we do studies, but we need a campaign to encourage people to use their turn signals, to stop at the stop signs, and to stop at the yellow, red lights. And I think that's something that the town is well equipped to do. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Those are great suggestions, and they're all things I think that we need to work on. I have to say that they are not new. I don't think any of us on the I think every one of us on the town council has been out about to start up from a crossroad on the bypass, and barely be missed by someone who has run the red light completely. Stop signs, rolling stops are certainly the rule here in town if it's done at all. And I agree with you about turn signals. It's both a courtesy and a safety issue. We'll certainly take this up both with with Chief Lowry and with Public Works. I think there are no easy answers to this because enforcement is just so difficult, because although there seem to be a lot of violations, there are not a lot of violations in each patrol period in each spot in the town. And so trying to catch this is going to something that's going to need a serious plan. We would like very much to have more red light cameras, but that's another issue that the State Highway Administration is the obstacle. But thank you for all these. It's good to have them out in public. Thank you. Go ahead.
I'm Joanne Stack, and I live in Easton Club East. And I was wondering if anything is going to be done about the traffic problem that they have in the morning when the kids go to school, the school buses, on Dutchman's Lane where it meets 50, and you cross over 50 to go to school, to Easton High School. That traffic, I haven't seen it a lot myself. I've seen it a few times, but they say it happens every morning. You can't get across, there's cars waiting on 50 to turn right, and traffic literally stops, and it's dangerous on both roads. And somebody's going to get killed there, I think, if that continues. So is there anything being done about that situation?
Thank you for pointing that out. Let me ask Mr. Avatella, do you know any, you are closer to the schools than I am.
One thing I can tell you is that I know in a recent meeting with the State Highway Administration, Mayor Cook made it a point to talk to the State Highway about changing up those lights so that you wouldn't have that backup come out onto 50. Now, of course, we can make that request. It's still up to the State Highway to whether or not they want to switch those lights or not. But that is definitely a concern for the town. Also, pointed out to Chief Lowry, he's aware of it, and also the crossing guards, or I guess they would be the crossing guards that at the end of Mecklenburg and Dutchman's, to try to make it so that we are getting more of that traffic off of 50. So if there's still an issue with it, we definitely need to be made aware of it so that it can be addressed. So, thank you for bringing that up.
Thanks. Good. Now we're getting somewhere. Let's have some more. Come in. Come up, please. Okay, go ahead.
I don't know if this has happened to other people in town, but I have almost run over people on rails to trails because we have adults and children that sometimes don't stop when they're getting right close to the roads. I know that they've put more lights there that flash, that people can push the button and the lights flash, and that's made a big help. But I was wondering if there was something that, a barrier that would cause children or adults who are on bicycles or those motor scooters to slow them down so that they have to kind of come to a stop. Because there was a couple times, not just me, but some of my neighbors, you're getting to the rails to trails, and you know it's there, but all of a sudden this person comes flying right through onto the road, and there's nothing to slow them down. That it seems to be too open as far as the barriers before you get to the road. So I was wondering if maybe something could be done, if anybody else has had that concern. Because I know a lot of the neighbors in the Easton Club East have said the same thing. And I'd hate to see somebody get hurt. And if we could just slow them down just a little bit by having some kind of a barrier so that maybe they have to go in and out instead of just coming straight ahead, there's nothing to stop them.
Yeah, sure.
So a couple of things. One, Easton PD is actually working on a procedure or a program for dealing with the e-bikes that are on rails and trails. If you look at the signs now, it says no motorized vehicle, but it doesn't say anything about electric vehicles. And so that the EPD is actually working on a plan for dealing with that. So that's one thing. Second thing is, if you remember back, there has been some discussion. I know residents have brought it to me to bring back the gates that used to be at the rails and trails where all the streets were. If you remember, there was at Dutchman's at, I'm sorry, not Dutchman's, at Goldsboro and Dover, you had those where you kind of had to go through them that way. And that obviously forced bicyclists, skateboarders, e-bikers, whatever, to slow down in order to get through there. And so maybe that's a discussion we can have about bringing those back. I'm not sure of the popularity of that, but it's definitely something that should be discussed because that would obviously force them to even dismount in order to get through there. So those are a couple of options.
Thanks. I was thinking of those gates too because I think there's one in St. Michael's on their trail that I remember going around. And when I was in my youth, it seemed that everywhere in the trails around Arlington had that kind of control on the streets. Do we have anybody from the Trails organization here? Anyone? I'm sorry, what? The advocacy group for bicycles. Just
Talbot Thrive.
Talbot Thrive, yes. Just see if there's a comment about obstacles for bicycles at the corners. Okay, we'll take that debate up at the council then, I guess. Please, come up.
Yeah, thank you. Patrick, my wife and I have been living in the Corbin area, Corbin Parkway community. Shout out to anybody online if they're listening in. We've been there for about over 10 years. We've raised 3 kids there so far. So in the back of my mind, I'm thinking the future for my children. And any type of growth is going to impact the education system. So curious on your comments on what that impact is going to do to our education system. And then with all the development going on, has there been any talks about perhaps some kind of workforce development partnership with these developers, with contractors to incorporate the community in all of these projects? And then my second question is, do you guys have a ratio on the marketplace, or not market, the market rate construction versus affordable housing construction, and what that looks like?
Let me start at the back with affordable, and stay here because I may miss one of your questions by the time I work on my way back to it. I don't think we have anything that would fit the standardized definitions of affordable housing in the pipeline at all. Am I wrong about that, Don?
With a few things like Doverbrook
Yes.
and sorry.
Thank you.
So Doverbrook and Easton Crossing plans on having a percentage. I think it's 30% or something in that neighborhood, 33%. They're going to be affordable. There's a couple of smaller projects here or there, but the vast majority, as David has pointed out, the vast majority is market rate.
On the, sort of had 2 questions about workforce development and community involvement. Now, community involvement is something else that we are working on, and I don't know whether we've announced it formally, but we are planning to have a process in which any developers who are proposing a development of above some scale will be required to have meetings with the community to hear from them, and so that we also can observe what the community's feedback is. For workforce development, it's a good idea. It's probably one that it would be good for us to turn over to the Easton Economic Development Commission and the county's Economic Development Commission, because they're the ones that have been working with Chesapeake College and other places on both post-high school education in trades and on apprenticeships of various kinds. And so I have absolutely no data on where the construction workers on these big projects actually come from and how many of them are I know that most of them are commuting in from outside Easton, but I don't really have any idea of how many of them are coming from in Talbot County or from Caroline, Dorchester, and other places. And that's a piece of information I would like very much to have about commuting patterns and the workforce in general. And we will work on that. But again, I think the Easton Economic Development Commission is where I'd like to push them to do some more of that kind of study. Now go back to one of your earlier questions.
I think that was it. Workforce development and then market rate and affordable housing ratio. So thank you. You got them all.
Okay, thank you. Oh, education, yeah. I leave that out because in one sense that's the county's problem, not ours. Which means in practical terms that we don't spend as much time collecting information on it, poring over it, figuring out what it's going to do to our budget and tax rates. That all comes in your county tax rate that pays for it. But, I mean, obviously we're concerned, and it's an issue that we need to take into account as it's one part of the question of whether we have adequate public facilities for the growth rate that we're seeing. We keep being reassured by the county that looking at that with their projections of the school population, we don't have a problem. That the high school is expected to become less, to have less utilization in the future because of their age projections. I think there's just one school where there is any concern about it reaching capacity. Do you remember which one?
The middle school? Easton Middle School.
Yeah. But aside from that, our real concern on schools is the Kerwin Commission, or whatever it's called now, and the huge increase in expenditures that's going to be required per student.
And just to add a couple of things, we do reach out to the Board of Ed when there's a project that's proposed and ask for their input. We also are now reaching out to Easton Utilities and asking for their input because we want to know how the impact of sewer, how it's going to impact the development will have on our sewer system, our water system, our electric capabilities. So those are things that the council is looking at if we have a PUD come before us. Even if it's something that is just going to go to the Planning Commission, that's something that we want to see as well. So,
Thank you. Okay. We have 10 minutes left, so please, let's use the time.
Hi, I'm George Morris from Easton Club East. I just want to give the town a compliment. We've been here 11 years, came from Howard County, which is normally considered a pretty high service area. They don't have anything toward the town of Easton. I mean, if I make a call to Public Works for a special trash pickup or call to Easton Utilities, I get service immediately. People are friendly, and just keep up the good work. So thank you.
Thank you. Our town staff, our departments, Easton Utilities really are amazing operations, and they get all the credit for your compliments. Yes, sir.
My name is Dave Perry. I'm a neighbor of George. Thank you all for coming out tonight and for doing this. This is a very important thing to be happening. I want to come back to Montgomery's Iron Law, okay, which had a clear relationship between population growth and traffic. It seems to me, based on 10 or 15 years experience, that every developer that comes into the town hires the same consulting firm to do the traffic study, and that firm is kind of notorious in favor of the developer. I don't know whether they do the measurements at, 3 a.m. on Easter Sunday or what, but maybe the town could the town not accept that particular consulting firm's result, or supplement those results with a more realistic result, maybe including the iron lung. Thank you.
Thank you. We have done the latter, which is, and I know when the Poplar Hill development was still being worked on or being proposed and pushed for, they produced one of those traffic studies, and the town did insist that they pay for a traffic study by a firm chosen by the town. And so we certainly have a precedent for doing that. I agree with you, having spent more time than I like to confess in the consulting business, I observed far too many companies who do exactly what you're describing. I think there are a couple of things, and I know the Planning Commission, this is one of the few things that Philip Susain and I agree on 100%, that those studies are not, cannot be relied on. We have talked about, and I don't know how far we have gotten on this, of requiring a more comprehensive look at traffic impacts than just the neighboring intersections to the facility. That's something we're going to need to work on. It's part of I think, part of our overall approach to traffic studies, but to ask what's the impact of this going to, what will be the ripple impacts of adding traffic here on other intersections that may be much worse now than the ones that the traffic study actually considers. I think that I have a couple of other opinions about how the traffic studies can always come out favorable. I think one of them is we have to enforce our own standards for what's acceptable congestion in town. In Washington, D.C., getting a D on an intersection, it means that it's one of the best intersections in the city. Here, our intersections were once A's and B's, and so I think that either a no degradation or a elevating the rule so that the traffic consultant can't say this is all fine. Yeah, it's going from a B to a D, but that's still an acceptable level of congestion. And the other one I think is making sure that we get samples from peak congested periods, not just ones where there's no traffic. So I think there are things we can do. A lot of this, I think the public works, the engineering staff is quite well aware of and wants to deal with. Any other thoughts or corrections from my mayor and my council president?
Doing a great job.
Okay, thank you.
Let me add one thought. This is pretty small, but we're updating all the traffic lights and adding push buttons and so forth. We've had push buttons on some of the intersections for a while now. I'm thinking now of Dover Street, Harrison Street, and the push buttons on the south side of that intersection haven't worked, I don't think, in 2 years. I mean, you could press it and then pound on it, nothing happens. So, it's more than just putting them in, it's keeping them working. And it's my fault, I suppose, for not calling, but we ought to test them once in a while, too.
Right. I believe we are putting in an entirely new system all the way down to the ground. The switches, the push buttons, I see new towers going in to hold the traffic lights as well as the lights themselves. So I think we're starting out everywhere with buttons that will work. Maintenance, yeah, absolutely right. If something doesn't work, call about it. I mean, you may hear that, the part, because the part will be here in 2 years to fix it, but at least, let Public Works know that something's not working. Okay. I'm looking around making eye contact with various people who have brought things up to me, but okay, well, thank you all for coming. With no further questions, just let me ask Mr. Council President, is there anything you would like to say to wrap things up?
Just want to thank you all for coming tonight. We had a great first one of these for Ward 2. You guys, phenomenal questions this evening. Thank you very much. We've got Ward 4 and Ward 1 still to go. We look to try to do this since we're getting such a great turnout. We're looking to do this twice a year, so there'll be one in the spring and one in the fall of 2026, so be on the lookout for that. And of course, you don't have to wait for that. You can contact us anytime. As David mentioned, feel free to reach out to us. We want to hear from you. So thank you very much for coming.
Thank you. Okay, well, thank you all, and I will turn you all free to go home and enjoy the rest of the evening. I'm going to put a stack of my business cards here for any of you who don't know me that well, so you don't have to try to find a way of contacting me on the town's website.